Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I wasn't gonna talk about this, I wasn't gonna make a video about it, but I thought, given everything that's happened today, this probably opens up a broader discussion about games releasing early, on time, delays, things like that, and I thought maybe it would make an interesting conversation piece. Yeah. So Cyberpunk's been delisted off the PlayStation Store now. I've got a theory as to why that's happened. It's probably not what people think, or maybe it is, I don't know. We'll talk about that, but I want this to be more of a discussion around, I guess, games being delayed and game releases and pre-orders and games coming out unfinished and things like that, rather than like a pile-on specifically on this game, even though there are some kind of dodgy things going on with this game. Let's roll the intro and we'll have a look at it. Hey folks, if you're a new viewer of the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. I make new videos about PlayStation every single day on the channel, so hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date. So as I mentioned at the top, Cyberpunk 2077 has been now delisted off the PlayStation Store, and this comes after a week of sort of ongoing game issues that the game is having, bugs and problems on past consoles. The game is crashing constantly on current gen consoles, PS5 and Series X. The game is running pretty well on PC, but having issues pretty much on every other piece of hardware. As the week has developed, this has led to CD Projekt Red coming up with a statement kind of saying, hey, we're sorry that we didn't show you how it performed on previous gen consoles, PS4 basically. We weren't really forthcoming about that, which was an odd statement to make. And in that same statement, they said they're willing to offer refunds to anyone who purchased the game who now wants a refund because it's not finished, but they're going to continue to develop it and progress the development on this game and hopefully have a better product in the coming months. Why is it that every time you sit down to record, your neighbors start singing? Hopefully you guys can't hear that. That's kind of what we got up to today. Then, as of today, there's a statement on PlayStation's Twitter account where they've announced that the game has now been removed from the PlayStation Store due to quality control problems, which is something that doesn't happen pretty much ever. So I want to kind of talk about that as well, but let's rewind a little bit in terms of what CD Projekt Red talked about. First of all, so they didn't show how the game ran on base consoles. It's weird, right? It's a really strange thing to do. These guys have kind of like swung and hit up until this point, especially with Witcher 3, which is a fantastic RPG. And it kind of pains me to see that they did this. It feels really disingenuous, and there's no two ways of cutting it. They lied to us, and I think that really sucks, if I'm being really honest. As much as I'd love to give CD Projekt Red the benefit of the doubt, they all knew the product that they were shipping when they shipped it. They all knew how Cyberpunk ran on a base PS4 and an Xbox One. You know, it's kind of hard for you to have too much sympathy with them there and be like, oh look, those rapscallions, they didn't know it was going to be so poor, but they did, and they showed the footage from PC or PS5 or whatever it may have been in trailers and things, and they intentionally deceived people, and I think that's kind of a sucky situation. What it appears to me is that they probably got a little bit over-ambitious with the game that they were producing. They wanted this thing to be a phenomenal piece of content, and I think the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One just couldn't produce what they wanted. So they were probably running it on developing it to a higher spec on PC, PS5, and even Xbox Series X in mind, and kind of forgot about our previous generation hardware, which the majority of people are still using today, and the game doesn't run well on that hardware. I guess what makes this kind of even more insulting is that they delayed the next gen versions, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X versions of this game, kind of indefinitely until such time as they could get them ready, and opted to release this instead, rather than opting to release the next gen PS5 versions now, as well as the past gen versions, to at least say, hey, the game is optimized and working exceptionally well for this. Because in its current state, Cyberpunk isn't even running very well on PS5. At least that's my understanding, with a lot of bugs, crashes, and things like that. Even though it's like the best way to play it on consoles. I don't know. Long story short, CD Projekt Red, you lied. You shouldn't have lied. Naughty boys. I don't like it. It feels dirty, and it feels more, I think, more like a betrayal, because I guess you probably don't expect a company like this to lie to us. This is a company that we were all anticipating like a really high quality product, and they couldn't deliver on it. I don't know, what do you guys think? Let me know your opinion about that whole side of things in the comments below, and then we'll keep kind of going. This kind of brings up the whole portion about delays and whether or not the game should have come out. Personally, I think the game should have just been delayed. Clearly, the game wasn't ready in its current state. You can see that in tons of the content online, and the fact that they're now issuing refunds, the game just wasn't ready to be shipped. It clearly needed more time to be developed, given they released a PlayStation 4 version of the game, which doesn't even run very well on a PlayStation 4, and the only real way to play it is playing it on PlayStation 5. There is no way this game should have shipped. It should have absolutely been delayed, you know, another 6 months or however long it needed to be before they could patch it. It frustrates me to heck when a developer and a publisher release a game that is just not ready and then say, hey, we're sorry about that, but we're gonna patch it. I think that's it's just not good enough. And us as players and gamers who love and adore these franchises and these publishers and these developers are kind of left with a bad taste, and we kind of have to suffer because they wanted to sell it to us now, even though it's not ready. This doesn't really happen in any other industry. You don't ever see another company or another sort of industry releasing a product to you and then being like, but we're gonna patch it and then we'll give it to you later. I mean, I guess like some hardware does that with tech, but generally speaking, you don't go out and buy the new Mazda and then they say to you, well, actually, the wheels aren't available yet, but if you buy it and pay for it right now, we'll have the wheels made up for you in like 3 or 4 months, but you can take it home, but you can't drive it yet because the wheels aren't ready. And the steering wheel's coming in 6 months' time. We'll have that ready even later. But until then, it's just unusable. It just doesn't happen, right? It's kind of a weird situation that's unique to the games industry that I guess us as consumers have allowed to happen and allowed to be taken advantage of like this, which is kind of weird. Like even in film and music, it doesn't really happen this way. And I get that making a video game is intricate and there's a lot of complexities with it, but there's never a scenario where you buy a boxed product of a game and you walk out of the store and you shouldn't be able to play it. I think everything should be available on the disc day one. You shouldn't be relying on a week 1, month 2 patch. Maybe a day 1 patch is acceptable, but like a month 2 patch saying, hey, the game's probably going to be playable in February, maybe, I don't think that's good enough anymore. And I think like us as consumers need to really speak with our wallets in terms of A, taking advantage of refunds that are available to us now, and B, not pre-ordering games until we're certain about them. I think there needs to be more I guess, willpower on our side to not pre-order content until we have had a better sort of exposure to the product. I know for this one even, reviews were kind of skewed purely because reviewers had such strict embargo restrictions. They weren't allowed to talk about specific things in the game, which actually kind of restricted them in telling the audience the challenges that the game had. To the point where IGN actually went and republished an additional review for the game, giving it like a 4 out of 10 instead of a 9 out of 10 like they'd originally given it because of all the bugs on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox version of the game, saying the game is fantastic on PC, but don't even bother playing it on console because it doesn't work. This brings us through to the whole thing about Sony, and a lot of people are making a big deal about the Sony side of things, and I guess that's probably why I'm prompted to make this video now. The reason that Sony have removed it from the store, it's not because it's completely unplayable, because I believe it is playable, it's just a mess, is that it's been refunded so many times. I think something very similar happened to Pokemon Go on the App Store when they were issuing refunds for that game back at launch, and it wasn't a situation of the game being so bad it had to be removed from the App Store. Likewise with this one. I think it's just that they have an unprecedented amount of refunds coming through, and it probably flags something in their system where they're like, hey, we can't be selling this game on the store if there's this many refunds coming through. I actually sat down for quite a while today trying to look at other games that have done this. I can't find another game that's been removed from the PlayStation Store after it's launched. I looked for Anthem. Anthem still was for sale even after it launched, and it was kind of a mess. Fallout 76 was the same. The game still remained for sale on the PlayStation Store even after launch, even after they did issue refunds for this game. And the other one I looked into was No Man's Sky, which a similar thing happened to. They did offer refunds for No Man's Sky that still remained on the PlayStation Store, and they were still selling it. This is the first time I've ever seen Sony actually delist a game. So maybe there is actually something broader to this. Maybe there is more behind the scenes that we're not aware of in terms of the game just fundamentally not working on PlayStation 4 hardware, and it kind of not making sense to sell the game to consumers when it just doesn't function and doesn't work as advertised. Maybe that is the case. My guess was more that it was to do with refunds, but who knows? I could be completely wrong. What do you guys think about all of this? I know there's been a lot of talking, and but I'm really curious to get everyone's thoughts on this. It's an interesting situation that's quite unique and doesn't traditionally happen, although the whole thing about game companies lying to us does seem to be happening more and more these days. So sorry for such a downer video, but I thought it was worth talking about. It was worth having a proper discussion about, and for a reason I decided to kind of just hit record and kind of get all my thoughts out in one page. I'm really curious to get your comments in the comment section down below. Don't make this a hate thing. We don't want to hate. We're not going to hate in the comment section. We just want to have a discussion though. So leave your comments down below so we can do that, and I'll reply as well. Thank you guys all for watching. Don't worry, the next video won't be so negative. It'll be more cheery like we normally do. I like to make your day good, not bad, so hey. Anyway, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Bye!